So I've really watched lots of videos on how to paint and how to add color to my paintings, and I've seen that every artist does it really differently and they like their own process. Let's take a look at the ones that I have found to be the most beneficial, and I'll show you how I use some of these methods, and we'll be able to, immediately add color to our paintings in all of these methods for every circumstance that we have. So the first method is something that I've learned from studying Willops. So a couple months ago, I did a full study of Willops' style, and as I was doing that study, I learned that he starts with a sketch and then adds grayscale into his painting. So he just, starts rendering a little bit by adding the main light and shadow shapes. And he doesn't go too much detail. He doesn't add too many details in there, but you can go as far as you'd like with it. And then once you feel more comfortable and ready with your grayscale painting, what you can do is start using the curve tool. So you can select the part that you like, and then you add a curve tool, and then you select the different channels. So for example, if I wanted the cloth to be a little bit more blue, I select the blue channel and then I move it up to add the blue. And you can select the different channels to get the color that you want. So then I select the face, for example, and do the same thing. Add a curve tool and go to the red and add the red color so that it looks a little bit more like skin. The thing about this way is that adding the curve tool is not final in your painting. It just gets you from grayscale to color, and it gives you a starting point on how to start rendering and adding the details of the colors. So you got to be careful that this curve tool just gives you a base, and it's really helpful when you want to just start with grayscale by adding the main values, and then you just introduce color, and then after that you can add the details and render and add the color variations into your painting. Then for this one, something to be careful with that, as I mentioned, you can see in the face here, the red is just a single tone. So I have to make sure I go in and add the color variation of the skin. So adding the reds in the cheeks, adding the colors in the eyes, the lips, and add all these different color tones into the skin so that it looks more believable and it looks more interesting. The next method is something that I learned from Xiao while she was teaching me and showing me how to do illustrations. So the way this method works is that similar to the previous method, you add everything into grayscale first, and I add the main light and shadow shapes first by making sure I know exactly where the light is coming from and then adding the light in there. Once I feel comfortable with the light and shadows that I have, I create a new layer and put it on overlay and start adding colors that way. One important thing here is that the grayscale needs to be a little bit lighter than usual. You don't want it to be too dark, because overlay mode doesn't really work very well when you have extremely dark values. So it's good to have that in mind when adding it. And then when I use the overlay mode, I can just add the different colors right away. So instead of starting with just one color and then adding the colors, this way I can add the different color tones in from the beginning, and then I can just merge these layers and start rendering. The same thing goes to all the different layers. So for example, here I made a layer for the skin or the face, and then I also mask the hair and use the same method. So you can either use overlay or you can go back and use the method that we had before using a curve tool. So you can just mix and match these two methods to get the colors that you really want. And I think it's important to use the tools that we have. So for example, using the vibrance tool is also a good one. So if you feel like the colors that you have in there are not saturated enough, you can just add a vibrance mask on top or a vibrance layer on top and increase the vibrancy to get to the colors that you really like. And then once you have these main colors in, you can just merge the layers, and then we can start rendering and adding more details into the colors. So the third method is a method that, Mark Burnett uses a lot. So the advantage of this method is that you can render everything and have everything done in grayscale first before you start introducing color. So this is a good way for people that are not ready to use color and don't feel comfortable adding color from the beginning, is that you can just render with grayscale and get it to that point that you like. And if you have the different components of your painting on different layers, you can just create a gradient map, put it on top of the part that you want to paint, for example, the skin, and then you can select the different colors that you want for your skin, or the color range. So you can see that the values go from complete white to complete black, and then you can add the different colors associated with that range so that the colors go in. And you can do this for all the other layers. As you can see, I did it for the jeans by adding the different colors here. And one of the advantages of this method is that you can immediately start introducing color variation into this from the beginning. So you can see, for example, if I wanted, the darks to be more blue and then the lights to be more green, I can just immediately do that. Same goes with the skin. I can just make sure that the dark areas of the skin are more towards the red and the lighter parts are more towards the yellow. And then once I apply that to all the different layers, I can start merging all the layers and then add more colors and color variation and render more and get it to the point that I want. And I think this method is very good for people who, are practicing values and practicing rendering in Grayscale first, because all your study and all your practice in Grayscale doesn't go to waste, and you can start adding color by using the gradient maps into your painting and adding color very, very quickly. As long as you have your rendering done very well in Grayscale, adding color into the painting will be very, very quick. The last method, of course, is just adding color right away without going to Grayscale. So as you can see, all the methods that I've already talked about starts with Grayscale first, because I like to know my values first before adding colors, but sometimes I go straight into color. And I go into color immediately in paintings that I'm very confident and comfortable with the colors that I need to use. For example, when I do portrait studies, I don't have to go into Grayscale. I can immediately start introducing color because I am more comfortable and familiar with the skin tones and the different color variations that I need to add into the skin. So it's very easy for me, or very comfortable for me, to just start adding color right away without having to go into Grayscale mode first. As you can see in this painting, I immediately started painting and adding the skin without having to start with any Grayscale at all. And really, all these different methods have their own benefits and have their own advantages, and it's up to us to decide which way we want to go with first. For me personally, when I'm not confident and don't know exactly which way I'm going with, I like to start with Grayscale first, and I've been experimenting a lot more with the overlay mode in adding color on my Grayscale paintings in a way that I feel it has been working out very well for me. And it depends on what you're doing and what you like to do, and the purpose of your painting and study. You can use whichever method you prefer. So I hope this video was helpful in kind of showing you a few different ways of painting and adding color to your paintings. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.